but we're going to go ahead and open the hearing on Senate Bill 376. Would you mind hitting that? Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Senate Bill number 376 relates to income tax and would extend the time period for the single city port authority tax credit. Currently, KSA 7932-212 provides an income tax credit for taxable years 2002 to 2024 in an amount equal to 100% of the amount attributable to the retirement of indebtedness authorized by a single city port authority established before January 1 of 2002. The total amount of credits allowed by this section is limited to $500,000 for any one fiscal year. That's currently in the statute. This bill would extend the time period of the tax credit through taxable year 2044. And the bill would take effect from and after publication in the statute book. And you may recall this statute was amended back in 2021, which extended the date. I believe the end date was 2022, and it extended it to 24. Be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Amelia. Committee, any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Committee, our first conferee is via WebEx, Laura McNichol. Welcome to the Tax Committee, Laura.
Good morning. Does everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Good morning, Chairman Tyson and members of the Assessment and Taxation Committee. I'm Laura McNichol with Watco. Watco operates 3 short-line railroads here in Kansas, the Kansas and Oklahoma Railroad, the South Kansas and Oklahoma Railroad, and the Kaw River Railroad. I'm here to speak in favor of Senate Bill 376, and that is to renew the tax credit that you all just heard about. And so this tax credit came online in the early 2000s to help keep or ensure that certain lines of the Kansas and Oklahoma Railroad, those that serve down towards Kingman out to Pratt and Coates, to ensure those lines stay in operation and keep those customers connected to the national freight network. This Port Authority tax credit allows the K&O to invest in basically ties, ballast, and surfacing to keep these lines open and connected to the national freight network. We've got 6 customers on these lines. They're way kind of out of the way of the rest of the K&O network. And if you look in my written testimony, you'll see a map and there's a red circle around the lines in question here. The 6 customers that we serve there, it's a little mix of concrete, some polymers, so basically plastics. We serve several grain elevators, as well as a company that manufactures mud for drilling, as well as another ag business, a fertilizer business. We've seen carloads in the last couple of years drop over here, but that really has to do with, as you all know, a very poor wheat harvest in Kansas. And so, you know, we've been before this committee in the past about tax credits and the use of these incentives to keep short line freight railroads up in operation, operating as efficiently and safely as possible. This tax credit has proven itself out in the last 22 years. I think we heard that it was created in 2002. In the last 3 years since we had it renewed, the first iteration of it was 20 years. The most recent was 3. We're coming back and asking for a 20-year renewal again. We've been able to deploy about 8,100 ties across these lines down in southwest of Wichita. We've put in 4,900 tons of ballast and done the requisite surfacing to keep the track in safe operating condition. And so I don't really have that much more to say, but you know, the Port Authority of Pittsburgh is got a board of directors, including a member from KDOT. So we come to the table with a proposal of what we're going to do in terms of track maintenance. The Port Authority approves that. KDOT is on the Port Authority, and they ensure that the work, they approve the work too and ensure that it gets done. And so we think this has been a successful model in keeping these lines open, and happy to take any questions should you have any. Again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Senator Holland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here this morning. Just had some, Laura, just some basic questions for you about this. I want to be sure I understand. Does, in essence, because I'm somewhat ignorant of larger transportation systems, how they work, but I just want to be sure I understand. So from the perspective, let me ask you this. As far as I view this, and I'm not trying to denigrate the ask here for the extension of the credit, but to me, I view this as a subsidy of your operations for these customers. And I guess what I mean by that is that what I want to know is that if left to their own devices, say if you did not have this credit, how would you basically quote unquote make ends meet? Would you in fact have to raise your rates higher for the existing customers you're serving on those short lines? In fact, could you raise your rates, or would that prove, I guess, untenable to your customers, and would they go to trucking alternatives? Kind of talk me through this of why there's the need for this subsidy, if you could. Thank you.
Sure, Madam Chair, Senator Holland, great set of questions. It allows me to kind of tell a little bit of a story on short lines. So, you know, tax credits have been around for a long time in terms of helping short lines maintain their networks, okay? And the nature of our business, you asked about, you know, if this quote unquote subsidy went away, would we be able to raise our rates to make up for that? The answer to that question is no. The Kansas and Oklahoma Railroad is a handling carrier. That's what we call it in our industry. And so as a handling carrier line to a class 1 railroad, and we interchange with both Union Pacific and BNSF there, the class 1 railroads in these cases have the ability to set the rates. And then they tell us what portion of that rate we will get for the carloads that we haul. We have very little ability to influence rates for the normal hook and haul service that you would see a freight railroad doing. Where we do have some ability to set rates is if we're providing extra switches for a customer, doing rail car repair, things like that, or an online move. We have very few online moves because, you know, we provide first mile, last mile service for these customers. This tax credit came on the books in the early 2000s due to the fact that there were so few carloads on these lines in southwest of Wichita here that they honestly didn't justify our ability to keep the lines in operation, right? We would be operating at a negative cash flow situation because there's just not enough traffic to justify the high cost of capital that freight railroads, I'll call it enjoy to be funny. And so overall, across the national freight network, short line railroads haul about 30% of the freight, and we make less than 6% of the revenue. And that's a figure that has been created by the Association of American Railroads Economics Department. And so when you see that we're making less than 6% of that revenue, we've been very fortunate with leaders, especially in states like Kansas, who have recognized how important these short lines are to keeping communities connected to the national freight network. And you'll see in my testimony, you know, through the 80s and 90s, Kansas lost over 2,000 miles of short line railroad to abandonment. And we're pretty lucky that the class 1 saw to it to give us the opportunity to take over these lines when they didn't find them to be critical to their business models of, you know, kind of long haul, and let us entrepreneurs come in and create, you know, small businesses. There's tremendous value to us being there. First of all, to the shippers. If we're gone and their only mode of transportation that they can rely on beyond us is trucking, rates go up pretty considerably when trucking is the only game in town. You know, the cost of maintenance, highway maintenance, as you guys know, those who are responsible for doing budgets in Kansas, you know, that's a high cost to taxpayers. And so when this stuff can move on our private infrastructure, there's a taxpayer savings to less truck traffic, less wear and tear on the highways, less bridge damage. And so since, you know, we're in the ag business and hauling grain at, you know, 263,000 pound rail cars, you know, it's almost the equivalent of 4 trucks on the highway. So it's pretty critical for these communities to stay connected to the national freight network. And that's kind of a long-winded answer, Senator, but I hope I covered everything.
One quick question.
Senator Holland.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. Thank you, Laura, for your response. I appreciate that. So I'm just kind of curious, can the class ones, can they basically adjust what they pay you to basically provide the monies you need to keep the short line viable versus going to the state for it?
Madam Chair, Senator Holland, yes, we have the opportunity to ask the class ones to adjust rates as necessary. And, you know, there can be flexibility in that, but they also have business models and responsibility to their companies to, you know, be as solvent as possible. You know, I think we've seen, like I said, in Kansas and across many states in this country, there's 10 states that have tax credits on the books, and then probably 20 more states that have grant programs on the books to help short lines do exactly what this tax credit was created to do, which is help keep these lines in service.
Thank you.
Any other questions, committee? Seeing none, thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Committee, we have written testimony by Shahira Stafford, Kansas Cooperative Council, and Randy Stuckey, Kansas Grain and Feed Association. Is there anybody else that would like to testify for the bill? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Is there any neutral? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 376. Committee, I'll turn your attention to the Senate Bill 421. We'll open the hearing on 421. Thank you, Amelia.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Senate Bill number 421 relates to sales taxation and would provide a sales tax exemption for Exploration Place, Inc. If you look at your bill, this is our sales tax exemption statute. And if you turn to page 39 is where you will find the beginning of the amended language. I said 39, sorry. The bill would amend KSA 793606 to provide a sales tax exemption for all sales of tangible personal property or services purchased by Exploration Place for the purpose of constructing, remodeling, furnishing, or equipping a riverfront amphitheater, a destination playscape, an education center, and indoor renovations at Exploration Place in Wichita, commencing January 1 of 2024. The exemption also includes purchases by contractors for such project. The exemption would expire December 31st of 2030, and for any sales tax paid on or after January 1st of 2024, but before the effective date of this act, the organization would be able to make a claim for a refund. And the bill would take effect from and after publication in the statute book, and I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Amelia. Committee, any questions? Thank you. Oh, Senator Holland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Millie, so I got maybe this is a question for research, maybe the first conferee. Was there like some sort of economic development program or something around, tell you what, Madam Chair, I'll just save my question for the first conferee. Okay. Thank you.
That's fine, thank you. Committee, the first conferee is Adam Smith, CEO of Exploration Place. Welcome to the Tax Committee.
Morning, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. Thanks for your consideration of this request. I submitted written testimony, but I understand you don't want me you don't want me to read that. In summary, as you may know, Exploration Place is the largest science and technology centre in the state. We opened in the year 2000. Last year was the best year we ever had, and on 50 of the days last year, we effectively hit our capacity as an organization. Anytime we have more than 2,000 visitors per day to Exploration Place, it starts to deteriorate the experience of our visitors. So for a while, we've been planning an expansion, and as an organization, we see an opportunity to use the 20-acre riverfront property that Exploration Place occupies in Wichita. So what we're proposing to build is what we're calling a destination playscape. This is a concept that is really taking root on a nationwide level. I think when we all think about a playground, we often think of a municipal park, a place that you might take the kids for half an hour or an hour. A destination playscape is something that is on a much larger scale and is a place you would take the kids to play all day. And it is so epic in scale and scope, it will attract people as a true destination. I think even regionally, we can look at what's been done in Omaha, Nebraska, Oklahoma City, they've embraced this concept, but the biggest one you may be familiar with is down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They built a place called the Gathering Place. It opened in 2018, and they've not had less than 2 million visitors per year to it since it opened. So we see that opportunity in Wichita, and I've spent most of the last 2 years building support for this vision and fundraising for it down in Wichita, and we've done really well. I'm really happy with the momentum on the project, and we're now at the point where it's actually getting real, and we're looking at the construction timeline and all of the issues. And one of the things that I've discovered as we got deeper into the process is that although we already have a sales tax exemption as an organization, we're a 501c3 nonprofit with an educational mission. We've enjoyed that privilege for the last 30 years, but when it comes to a larger scale project like this, we're looking to invest $25 million in our facilities. It creates a little bit of a dilemma because we'd like to hire a general contractor to do the work, but they don't have the sales tax exemption that we have. So if we can't get this project exemption certificate, which effectively is what we're asking for in the bill, we'll have to. It just creates a tremendous amount of red tape for us because we'll have to purchase all of the, using our sales tax exemption, we'll have to purchase the materials that then we pass on to the contractors and subcontractors. And so I hope you will see this. I think it will have a fairly negligible effect on the state's tax revenues, but it will save us a tremendous amount of red tape, and hopefully that's something you would support. I'm very happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Committee questions. Senator Ray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you for your presentation. I think it's a really good museum and I should visit it sometime. My question to you is, just to clarify, so the sales tax exemption you're asking is not for your organization, but for the contractor to get sales tax exemption for buying items, and the contractor is a private sector, not a nonprofit.
Correct. Yeah, in tax code, I think this is referred to as a project exemption certificate. So if I go to the webpage that the Department of Revenue has, sorry, I am recovering from a cold over the weekend. There's a long list of organizations that without needing to come for a bill can just get a project exemption. If I was the Sedgwick County Zoo, which is the other large major tourist attraction in Wichita, it is zoos are listed on the webpage and in the tax code as being qualifying for a project exemption certificate. So are schools, so are churches, daycare centers, etc. for whatever reason, museums, which we are not included on that list. So we can't get one unless we come with a bill.
One more clarifying question.
Senator Reddy.
Thank you. So this is a project exemption, sales tax exemption, and you said it's normal or in several of those sectors you just named off?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Holland, did you have a question?
Thank you. Ms. Smith, thanks for being here today. So you guys are a nonprofit, correct?
Yes.
You are a museum.
Yes.
You've been operating since 2000 down in Sedgwick County?
Yes.
Okay. So, and maybe you don't know this, I guess I'm just kind of curious. Do you know other museums in the state of Kansas, when they've done expansion projects, that they've been granted the same type of exception? Why or why not?
I know there is one, and I am going to apologize. I have not memorized which one it was. Early in this process, we went and researched what had happened in the past. It was here in Topeka, and I'm blanking on which. There's at least one precedent in the to this. Yeah.
Okay. When you guys did your initial project, I guess, in 2000, did you receive any sort of economic development funding to do that? From the state or local?
Well, I wasn't around at the time. It was a very significant project at the time. It was a $63 million development to build Exploration Place. So there was public money in it and there was private money in it. Even today, Exploration Place is, my operating budget comes about 1/3 from Sedgwick County, and the rest we raise ourselves.
Okay. And so when we talk about basically, this would be for a project, and I assume that would have, this sounds like a pretty ongoing project, right? I mean, you're talking basically this thing would expire through 2030?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are you doing in the project? I mean, is this just like we're putting some new paint on the walls, like we're buying major exhibits, we're bringing in artifacts? I mean, what would this sales tax exemption extend to? I mean, anything that would be brought in, bought, whether it's services, items for display in the museum, I mean, would all this stuff be sales tax exempt?
Well, we're asking for a project exemption certificate for a defined project, which, as I think it is written into the bill, is over 3 phases. Phase 1, which takes place this year, is to build an amphitheater on the north side of our property. Phase 2, which is scheduled to take place next year, is the major part of this project. It's a $22 million spend to build the playscape that I was talking about. So we want to get that open by September of next year. And phase 3, which is the reason that we've got an extended time frame on that takes us to 2030. I was advised, because we don't actually know exactly when we're going to do phase 3 right now, because we haven't raised the money for it. We haven't done all the project planning. I mean, I'd like to get it done a lot sooner than 2030, but you know, the advice I was given was to choose a date so we don't have to come back at some point in the future if we hit a project delay on fundraising or something like that. So what I need to avoid a ton of red tape is the ability for my general contractor on these specific defined projects to have the sales tax exemption.
Okay. And just so once again I understand, so what you're talking about is you're talking about a sales tax exemption applies to any professional services that you would basically subcontract out to a general prime or something, right? Architecture, whatever.
Well, my understanding is that labor and professional services are already exempt.
Okay.
This is for the roughly $13-14 million that will be spent on purchasing equipment. A lot of it is play equipment.
So basically, you're purchasing attraction items.
Correct.
You're asking a sales tax exemption for.
Correct. And all material, you know, there's going to be a lot of concrete and wood and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, sir.
Committee, any other questions? I have a few, and I think the senator alluded to it in the beginning, but he didn't ask the question. Are you receiving any other tax credits or tax incentives?
We have got the community service tax credits from the state of Kansas on this project. I think we were awarded 120-something thousand in this year's cycle. It's a very large fundraising stack for this, so I got a lot of private philanthropy. Sedgwick County put $2.5 million into the campaign. The state has invested $3 million in the campaign through the BASE program. So those are the two large public sources of funding that I'm aware of.
Okay, so, and IRBs, property tax abatements?
No IRBs, no property tax abatements that I'm aware of.
Star bonds, you're
No
not?
star bonds.
Okay. So 3 million from the state, and so would it be property tax? You said a third of the county is supporting. Would that be from property taxes?
I guess that you'd have to ask the county exactly where they were pulling the money from, but I guess they're primarily property tax supported, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Committee, any other questions? Senator Baumgardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see that we have testimony from the League of Kansas Municipalities that's written only, and they're asking to leave the local sales tax levy in place. Has that been addressed as to what that amount would be?
No, it has not. Thank you, Madam Chair, or, Madam Chairman. I'm thinking education, sorry. Senator Baumgardner.
Well, and the reason I ask that, because it's interesting, the local municipality is giving funds, and yet the League of Municipalities is saying, but don't give them the tax relief. So it's a little counterintuitive to me.
Okay.
Thank you,
Can I,
Madam Chair.
can I be clear on one point? We will get the tax relief. What this bill will do is save us and our general contractor a ton of work. That we have a sales tax exemption. So if this bill doesn't exist, it's so much money that I'm not just gonna pay the tax. We're gonna put in place a workaround where we purchase these things and then we pass them to our general contractor. And that's gonna create a ton, there's no real financial implication of this that I can see, but it's the bureaucracy I'm trying to take out of the project, and it's very significant.
Committee, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other proponents? Any opponents? Committee, we do have written testimony neutral from Spencer Duncan, as Senator Baumgardner brought up. Any neutral? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 421. Committee, I want to turn your attention to SB 54 from last year. Amelia has handouts. John, will you help her with those? And this is going to test your memory a little bit. So we will have an update. Committee, while we're waiting for the handouts, I have changed the schedule for next week. I didn't realize the Senate was going to be pro forma, so we will not be meeting Monday since the Senate is pro forma. And I forgot there was a game this weekend, so. Amelia, do you mind? Thank you.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 54 was a bill that was heard last year on February 1st of 2023, and the committee actually recommended the bill be passed. The bill was re-referred to this committee back in January. And if you will recall, Senate Bill number 54 relates to sales tax and would expand the eligible uses to qualify for a 0% state rate for the sales of certain utilities. Essentially, it would expand the current residential exemption to apply to any property, which would also include commercial property, commercial uses, so commercial or non-commercial uses. And the bill, as it was introduced in 2023, it did have a delayed effective date of July 1st of 2024. And I'd be happy to try to answer questions if you have any.
Any questions? Committee, Senator Corson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you just briefly remind me of the fiscal note on this? Thank you very much.
Last year, the Department of Revenue indicated that the bill, as introduced, would have reduced state receipts by $51 million in 2025 and $56.2 million in 2026. That money is split across the general fund and the highway fund, since this is sales tax receipts. And so that was $42.3 million of general fund in 2025 and $46.4 million of general fund in 2026. The balance of that is highway fund. To the extent of my knowledge, the Department of Revenue hasn't provided an update on that number this year, but they will if the committee does something with the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
Senator Holland.
This is slowly coming back, Madam Chair, I think. Was this the bill that I believe a representative from the House introduced?
It is, yes.
And this was,
This is about leveling the playing field.
right, okay, and this was basically, my understanding was, I guess, the large businesses or whatever are already not paying this, and so we're talking about
All businesses pay this.
all base, and what about our residential homeowners?
They do not pay it.
Okay, so this is something for all businesses, and the homeowners are already, they're enjoying a zero sales tax rate on this.
Yes, on state sales tax, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Committee, what are your wishes on the bill? Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As was mentioned by our reviser, some of these dates are pretty quick now, and I am curious. I'm going to make a motion to change the dates, but before I do that, I would like to know, I see a date of, in Section 1A, the provisions of this subsection shall expire on June 30th, 2024. Should that rightfully be changed to 2025? And then the July dates changed to 2025? I'm asking this of our reviser, because I just don't see how we could get this implemented by July the 1st of 24, since it takes effect upon publication of statute book.
Thank you, Senator Amelia.
Madam Chair, yes, Senator Peck, if you were to want to move the date forward a year, yes, the change in both, like subsection A, the expiration date would move forward to June 30th, 2025, and then the new provisions would be on and after July 1, 2025. That would be the technical way to do that.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chairman. So what about then on, oh, never mind. I see that's not a change. That's current statute. So I would make a motion, if it's in order, Madam Chairman, on the date changes.
It is in order.
All right. I would make a motion that we change the dates from June 30th, 24 to 25, and then from July 1 to 24 to 25, and that would be Section 1C and D, and then also in, well, it would be Section 2C2. Anyway, all the dates would just be moved forward from 24 to 25 would be my motion.
Thank you. In fact, is there a second on the motion? I'll second it. It's been moved by Senator Peck, seconded by Senator Tyson. Discussion on the motion. Senator Baumgardner.
Just a point of clarification, perhaps from Amelia. So it needs to be fiscal year dates, not calendar. So we couldn't, it needs to be the the June 30th and July 1, not January 1 or something like that.
I think it could be January. There's no restriction on it.
Madam Chair, yeah, off the top of my head, I can't think of a reason why it would be required to be a fiscal year. I think it may have just been a matter of giving the utilities time to prepare and be able to bill this way.
Senator Baumgartner.
Well, considering the fact that we're just in February, I'm just wondering if perhaps there's a possibility of making it more a January as opposed to wait another year and a half. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. If the senator wishes to make a motion to change the dates, I would withdraw my motion because she makes a great argument that I tend to agree with. So I will just leave it up to you to let us know, Madam Chairman.
Well, Senator, I'll withdraw my second, and you'll withdraw your motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move that the dates that say June 30th instead would be December, and the dates that say July 1 would be January 1. Thank you, Madam Chair.
It's been, and just for clarification on the years, 1 year out.
Correct. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It's been moved by Senator Baumgartner, seconded by Senator Peck. Discussion on the motion. Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one clarification to make certain we're all speaking the same language. I heard Senator Baumgartner say December 30th. I'm presuming she would mean December the 31st, because that would be the last day of the year.
We can make it the 31st. It would be the year of 24, though. Thank you.
Okay, for clarification on the motion, thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're back on the bill. Committee, what are your wishes? Senator Holland.
Just a point of procedure here, Madam Chair, looking for some guidance from you. Would this be potentially a vehicle that we could look at other maybe sales tax related policies that we could use to get out of the committee? Or would you prefer just to kind of leave this alone, one-offs, and just handle it that way?
Senator, I'd like to leave this one alone. We have several vehicles that we can use, and we will be looking at those. This legislation, the only reason we're looking at it now is it did pass out of this committee. It did not come above the line, and the schedule is running a little thin, as you can see. So I just thought we would work this legislation that wasn't of controversy last year and kick it out of the committee.
Thank you.
But we will be working, hopefully, we're waiting on other tax legislation that hopefully goes into law. Senator Reddy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was looking at the supplemental note, and it says, and this may have been true for a lot of bills, but I just saw it now. This is for Amelia or even for you. From the money for this would be from the state general fund in respective years, and the balance of the reductions would be from the state highway fund. I'm not quite sure what that means.
Senator, that there's a portion in sales tax that is guaranteed to go to the highway fund. So part of it goes to the state general fund, and the rest goes to the highway fund. And I would look to Eddie to give us the exact number, because that has changed.
So currently, it's an 83% to the general fund, 17% to the highway fund split. And so when I wrote in the respective years, what I mean is, so 51 million is the total for fiscal 25 in last year's version. And of that amount, 42.3 million in fiscal 25 was the general fund impact. And the balance of that, so 51 minus 42.3, which I think is 8.7, is the highway fund impact.
Thank you, I appreciate the clarification.
Are there any other questions? What are your wishes on the bill? Senator Peck?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would move that we pass Senate Bill 54 as amended and recommend it favorably for passage.
It's been moved by Senator Peck, seconded by Senator Baumgardner. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Committee, I was going to pick up another bill. I will bring it to your attention. We will work it at some point. It's Senate Bill 126. It was another bill that leadership kicked back into the committee. We will take a look at it sometime. We do have several bills stacked up. I understand that. We're all in on a veto override. And until we are able to address that, we'll just continue to work as we do diligently, but keeping in mind that there's other positions in play. So committee, are there any business before the committee? Seeing none, we're adjourned. Thank you. And no meeting Monday. Thank you.